I mean, in that science fiction world, it's like, what's the equivalent of that? You know, oh, you drive this old beat-up speeder, whatever, you know? Why do you drive the old speeder? Because it's cooler than the new ones, you know? I want the one that's, you know, made of metal and not plastic, whatever, you know?
And not to overuse Star Wars as an example, but it is a really great example of this. You know, Han Solo has his car, and he loves his car. And it's not a car we recognize. It's certainly not a Chevy. It's a YT freighter. But, you know, the fact that he's always out tinkering with it, and the fact that it never works as well as he thinks it does, and that he brags about how fast it goes, that is the kind of thing that we all instantly relate to.
Yeah, and everybody knew Chewbacca. Before you knew what a Wookiee was, you know, everybody has that friend, the great big kind of quiet guy who hangs out and is really funny. Like, everybody knows that guy.
Yes, and anybody who would mess with you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do we have more questions? Yes. There's too many choices. Right here in the glasses.
Okay. I guess whenever you're creating fiction, do you ever care about realism, or do you just kind of say, suspension of disbelief?
So in writing genre fiction, do we care about realism, or do we just say, screw it, suspension of disbelief? When I'm writing my post-apocalyptic, the world has been destroyed fiction, I only write about totally real places that have actually been destroyed. No. Realism has a totally different meaning, and I actually think that realism is the wrong word to be using when we're talking about genre fiction. What we're really looking for is plausibility. Sorry for my phone going off in the middle of the thing. You know, I keep trying to find an example. It's not Star Wars, but we talked about it so much.
Use it. Use what you know.
You know, there are things that happen that are obviously not real. You know, the space station, the Death Star, that's not real. But the characters' reactions to it are plausible. And so we can understand, oh, in this situation, I can totally see these characters doing that thing.
Yeah, basically you have to create a world that even if it is fantastical and does not exist, at least feels like it has some internal logic, some sort of reality within itself, and the characters have to behave realistically and truthfully like this is their world, and this is how they understand it. As long as you have those two things, you can be as far-fetched as Star Wars, where, as we know, there's canonically oxygen-burning fire in space. You know, we're all like, okay, fine, you know. But because that universe seems to have its own reality and its own age and its own believability, and as long as you have that in that world, then you can go all over the place. Now, I think actually, if you're talking about not so much the world itself, but if you're talking about the characters, I think sometimes the more fantastical you get with the setting, the more realistic you want to get with the characters' feelings and emotions and reactions. Like, you really want to ground it. You know, maybe we don't, for instance, I don't know, I'm trying to think of another example. Harry Potter, maybe. Yeah, there's the witches and the wizards, but do we really recognize the teenage angst? Absolutely. Yes, we do. Yes, you know, a lot of people complained in that 5th book because Harry's in all caps all the time. I'm like, Harry's 15. We live in all caps at 15. That's what we do. You know, and that's what connects people to those books. I mean, we love the fancy, but if it didn't connect to very real human emotion, then it would just be we would not have had actual world leaders dressing up in wizard hats on the final release day. So yeah, you have to believe, it has to be realistic for the world of the book.
Yeah, you define the rules of your world and then just stick to them. So
yeah, there was, and Harry Potter's a great example, I think, to bring up, because there are a lot of realistic improbabilities in that series. Like, he goes to school for 7 years without ever once taking a math class. You know? But that's the kind of thing that we call refrigerator logic. The world and the story and the character are also internally consistent and compelling that we don't think about the lack of math classes until later when we go get a snack out of the fridge and we're like, oh, wait, he's an idiot. He doesn't know any useful skills to function in the real world at all.
Hermione takes math.
Well,
Hermione takes everything.